Good morning, and welcome to your first of our digital learning or distance learning lessons in the digital citizenship class. This is going to give you that experience of what an online course might be like in terms of its expectations and what you need to be able to do when you don't have an instructor who's going to be seeing you every single day. It's going to be useful for you as you move through high school, where you'll have the opportunity to take some online courses, and useful for you when you get to college, as chances are you will have plenty of opportunity to take solely online classes while you are in college. What we're going to do as part of this distance learning unit is we're going to talk a lot about data, both how you can collect data and then how you can use that data, transform that data into information that you could use for a report, for a blog, for a persuasive essay, so that you are not limited to just having information that you find on the internet. That was 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, we spent time finding information on the internet, making sure it was good information. But sometimes that information just doesn't exist on the internet. Either your topic is too specific or you have other plans that somebody else hasn't done already. And so you need to collect that information on your own. One way you do this is in science class by conducting experiments. Another way that we're going to focus on today is by gathering the opinions and gathering information from other people. And luckily, we have a very simple tool that allows us to do that. And I'm going to walk you through that tool today. Then over the course of the next 5 days, we're going to use the data that you gather from that tool and from some other sources and learn how to manipulate that information, change that information into something that you can use. Okay, so let's get started. I need you to log into your AMDG account. You'll notice that I'm logged into my AMDG account, and we can see that because I've got the AMDG symbol up here in the upper corner. Try not to log into your Gmail account because this is going to be information that I'm going to be collecting at various stages for the next 5 days. So I want to make sure that I have access to it. Right now, you don't need to worry about putting it into a folder or sharing it with me. We're going to do that later. Just make sure that the initial document you create is in your AMDG account. The type of document that we're going to create, we haven't played around with much. We've played around with documents and we've played around with presentations. We haven't done that much with spreadsheets, and one down from the spreadsheet is the form. And the form is what we're going to play around with today. Now, chances are most of you have used a form before online where you filled out information and hit submit. For a long time, that took a pretty decent amount of coding experience to make a decent form and have it fill out correctly. Google Docs, when it was released, soon after it was released, created this form attribute or this form system that combined a spreadsheet to collect information with the web page where you could fill the information out. And that's what we're going to learn how to build today. As we look up here, we're going to concentrate up at the top first, and the first thing that most students like to do is play around with themes, because you can make the form, the background of the form, look however you want. You can make it pretty or professional or any combination thereof. I haven't played around with a lot of these yet, but I'm kind of liking the green numbers, so I'm going to select that one and I'm going to click apply. And now my theme is listed as digital. As you go through these other selections, I want you to read them carefully. You have allow users to edit their responses. If you were to submit something like an essay response, or if you were to submit a short answer and you want people to have a chance to go back and change the title of a presentation they were proposing, or change the number of people who were going to attend an event, if it was an RSVP form, this would give them the ability to go back and change it. Now, the problem is, in order for them to go back and change it, they have to be logged into the Gmail system. And so, since you can't guarantee that every person is going to have a Gmail account that you give a form to, you don't necessarily want to give them that editing ability. In the same way, if you look at the second option, since we're in the AMDG environment, require Brebeuf Jesuit Preparatory School sign-in in order to view this form. You could make it so that this website doesn't come up unless they're signed into their AMDG account. I'm going to uncheck that because the form that I'm going to make, I want to be public. This will make your form accessible outside of amdg.brebeuf.org. Are you sure you want to proceed? And I do. Automatically collect respondents' Brebeuf Jesuit Preparatory School username. Again, if you were making people log in, you could automatically make sure that you collected their name and their contact information, even if you didn't have a place for that on the form. Since I'm not going to have anybody log into BJPS, I'm not going to check any of these boxes. The rest of the system for creating your form is pretty self-explanatory. You're going to give your form a title, and because I've been thinking about this for a while, I think I'm going to write a form, or I'm going to create a survey about digital citizenship and information resources. This is something I've been blogging about for a while, and so it's kind of at the top of my mind. Now, if you want to include instruction sets, you can include instructions. Please answer the following questions. This is also useful if you want to give an overview of kind of the topic that you're going to be looking at. You can type in an entire paragraph that people would read before they would take your survey. Now you notice we have 2 sample questions up here. Once you have a question, this says sample question 1, you have 3 boxes over at the other side. One of those boxes is edit. That's how you edit your question. One of them is duplicate. So if you have a series of questions that have similar answers, like a multiple choice question where all 4 of the answers are the same for 4 different questions, the question is just different, you could duplicate the question and change the question on the duplicate copy. And then trash. If you've messed up a question, you can get rid of it. So we're going to edit the question, and we see that our question structure has a question title, a help text, a question type, and then the answer. And so we're going to begin with, for a survey about digital citizenship and information resources, let's start with, how old are you? Since different people at different ages may respond to some of these answers differently. Now, the type of question that I just asked is going to be a text question because I want them to fill it in. I'm going to add some help text here, Please use numbers. Do not spell out your answer. And you have the choice of making this a required question or not. This question I'm not going to make required. I'm just going to click done. And now I've got my first question in there. For the second question, let's change this up a little bit. Let's ask them a question about social media. What is your preferred type of social media? Please choose the one you use the most or are most comfortable with. And this is a multiple choice. You have this really cool option here that's go to a page based on your answer. This is for really advanced questions. We're not going to play around with that today, but it is a neat feature because you can actually control what your survey does based on different answers people give. Now, because it's a multiple choice, we need to fill in the multiple choice questions. So we'll just throw in some of the social media types. We're going to do Facebook and Twitter. And one of my favorites, Google+. And let's add Pinterest and Instagram. Now, because this is a 4-piece multiple choice, we didn't necessarily cover all of the different social media types that people would be interested in. So you have this add other option over in the corner. And when you click add other, they can select other and then type their own answer in, which is what we want. We'll make that a required question and we'll hit done. So you see, creating the system or creating the form itself is pretty easy to do. When you're ready to add a third question, you go to add item. And you can see that you have a variety of options. Text is a short fill in the blank answer. Paragraph text would be a longer box. Do you have any concerns about the types of information or the truth of the information that you read on social media sites. And we make that a paragraph so that they have more room to type in their answer. And then part of this is going to be creating the right question. And we're not going to get into a lot of that. As you move through your high school career, you're going to have teachers who are going to explain to you how to create the best question to get the answer that you want. That's not our focus today. I'm going to ask you to think about it a little bit, but I'm not even going to give you kind of like the rules or the guidelines. But if I ask a question like, do you have any concerns? That's actually a yes/no question. So what I might say is explain any concerns you have about the types of information or the truth of the information that you read on social media sites. It doesn't guarantee that I'm going to get a better answer, but it makes it more likely that I'll get a better answer. And we make that a required question, we hit done. And so you can see that as we're going through, the form begins to build itself. So we're going to add an item just to show you a couple more of these. You can choose from a list. Have you ever posted something on a social media site that you were not sure was true? And that's a yes/no question, so we go yes and no. Notice in this case, since I'm having them choose from a list, I don't have that and other option. And so this one is now a drop-down list. You also have grid and scale questions. Scale questions and grid questions are new to the form document. And so a scale question, rate the ease of use. Now let's see. How accurate do you believe television news is when reporting on politics? And we'll make this on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 to 5 is completely wrong. And 5 is absolutely accurate. And make this a required question and done. And so now you see that we've got a scale, completely wrong to absolutely accurate. Note, this is another example of how you can create a question that's going to kind of give you the answer, because most of you are unlikely to say something is completely wrong or absolutely accurate. And so what I did by putting those adverbs there is I made it very unlikely that many of you would pick 1 or 5, and so now you're just choosing between 2 or 4. Whereas if we edit that question to just say wrong or accurate, or even mostly wrong or mostly accurate, now when you read the question, you're more likely to choose 1 or to choose 5 because it doesn't have that extreme feel to it. Let's try one more type of question and then we'll move on. Let's try a grid question. So the question title is what source of news, what media source are you most likely to believe about current events? And so we're going to do 5 columns again, but in this case we're going to make the columns very likely, likely, not likely. Let's do an undecided, not likely, doubtful. And for our rows, we're going to say something like television, news, internet, news site, blog, Facebook, Twitter, other social media. And just for fun, let's throw a newspaper and referee journal. Make it a required question, click done. And now we see that for each one of those items that we listed as a row, you choose which one you would think it would be. Television news could be very likely or likely, but it can't be both. But you could make all of them likely or all of them very likely. Okay. So just as an example. Okay, so we've got our quiz designed. I've shown you some of the different types of quizzes that you can do. And we are done. When we are done, we're going to go up to this corner. Now in this corner, you have some more options. One option is you can email this form, and you could just start typing in the email addresses of people that you would like to send this information to. You can see responses, and you can see responses in two different ways. We're going to work on that tomorrow, not today. You can embed this information, which means that you could take this code and you could put this code onto your class website and have this as a form that shows up on your website. You can edit the confirmation page. The confirmation page is the page that shows up after somebody has taken your quiz or taken your survey. So the default is just your responses have been recorded. You can publish the response summary. What that means is that the people who are going to be taking your quiz will see how other people answered the quiz after they have taken the quiz. So it's kind of like those survey questions where they ask you a question, you click the answer, and then you get to see how everybody else answered as well. And you can require people to sign into the burbuff.org website in order to see that summary. So we're going to publish the response summary. We're not going to require them to log in, and we're going to click Save. Finally, we're going to make sure that everything is saved, and we are done. What I want to do is I'm going to email this form. And we're going to email this form way back when. You'll remember that we all signed up for the Digital Citizenship Group. And the Digital Citizenship Group allowed us to communicate with each other. And one way that we can communicate with each other is this email, digcit3@amdg.burbuff.org. And so I'm going to email this quiz to all of you. Actually, I'm not going to email this quiz to all of you because that would kind of be like showing you what the assignment is. But I could email this quiz to all of you just by sending it at this point. We're going to cancel that out. And we are going to exit out of this form. Now, when I go back to my Google Drive, you'll see that what I have in here is not a form. I have a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet has what time somebody took the quiz, and then has all of the questions that I asked. Tomorrow, we're going to work on seeing what those responses look like and how we can start to use those responses. On the off chance that one of you accidentally exited out of the form, but you need to go back and edit it, open up the spreadsheet from your Google Drive, go to Form, and go to Edit Form. Okay, let's talk about your assignment. Oh, for those of you who want to see what the form looks like, you can view the published form here. And when I click on that button, there's my theme that I chose, Digital Citizenship and Information Resources. Please answer the following questions. That's the instructions. And a star means it's required. And you would put in, how old are you? And there's my help text. What is your preferred type of social media? Explain any concerns you have. There's our drop-down question. our scale question, and our grid question. And when you're done, you click submit. So let's talk about your assignment. Your assignment for tonight is your assignment for today, because you've got about 40 minutes left in today's period, is going to be to create your own quiz using the walkthrough that I just gave you as your guide. Here are the requirements for your quiz. It needs to be 10 questions, and I want you to, before you start immediately writing down the questions, I want you to hold on for 1 second and think about the topic that you want to choose. We've done this assignment for 3 years now. And in those 3 years, we've picked up a couple of guidelines. Because at the end of this, I'm going to be asking you to do a reflection. I'm going to be asking you to summarize the information that you gathered. I want you to think about the topic carefully. I don't mind you guys having fun topics, but I don't want your topics to be completely trivial or completely nonsensical. It becomes very hard for you to complete the assignment at the end if all of your survey data at the beginning is focused on what type of candy somebody would eat. And that is actually one that somebody tried to write about, and they did a terrible job with it. So think, and when I say to think about good topics, topics could be of things that are of interest to you or things that are of interest to the school. Like imagine if we were going to redesign the library, what types of things would you want to see in the library? Could you design 10 survey questions that would get at a question like that? Or maybe you want to do a survey of what people think about the Bring Your Own Technology program. Certainly that would be one I would be interested in reading if any of you were in the mood to try and come up with that one. You can also think about things that are more personal. You could do sports. You could do things that you like best about Brebeuf, the best classes to take at Brebeuf, or what makes a class great at Brebeuf. You could do things about home and family life. My 2 rules are: 1, keep the content appropriate. I don't want to have to deal with any problems with inappropriate content. And then 2, let's not ask or go after questions that would cause potential hurt feelings or that would hurt other people. So while I have absolutely no problem with you doing a survey that would identify the best classes and the best teachers at Brebeuf, I certainly wouldn't want a survey that's the worst classes or the worst teachers at Brebeuf. Let's keep it clean and keep it polite so that we don't run into problems later on. Okay. So you're going to come up with 10 questions. I need you to have a full variety of questions. While you don't have to have every single type of question, you need to have some that are fill in the blank. You need to have some that are multiple choice. You need to have some that are asking for numbers, because remember, eventually we're going to take this into a spreadsheet and we're going to play around with some of the numbers and some of the data. And so you want to have some of the questions that ask them like, the numbers. How many electronic devices do you own? Or how many social media groups are you a member of? Or how many hours a day do you spend on the computer? There's different ways that you can ask questions that will elicit number responses, and those number responses will be helpful. You should have some short answer. You should have some multiple choice. You should have at least some fill in the blank or some essay question that gets them thinking about it a little bit more. You're more than welcome to have some true, false, or some yes, no questions. Ultimately, you want to get as many varieties of questions as you can, because it'll make it more interesting when we start manipulating the data. Remember, if you want them to have a specific type of answer, like you want the answer to be in numerical form and as a fill in the blank, you have to tell them you want it in numerical form. If you want them to write out a question, or if you want to force them to choose from a list, then use that drop-down list or the multiple choice option. So that's my guidelines for creating your form. You've got the rest of the period to put your form together. When your form is complete, when you have it all ready to go and you're ready to start gathering some content and getting some people to start responding and feeding back to your form, you're going to go into our Google group and you are going to email it to digsit3@amdg.brebeuf.org. That'll send it to everybody's Gmail account. Another option that you have is if you go into the groups along the top and then choose My Groups, digsit3 will be one of your options. And I'm going to post a question right here that will be form post. Respond to this group question with the link to Thursday's form. And so we've posted that. So the other option you have if you don't want to email it to everybody is you can post it right there as a response to the topic. So Google Forms are a great way to collect data and information, especially for surveys. You can also use it for other things like invitations, like presentations or idea generating. It's a web form that you can use for a variety of things. It'll eventually save it into a spreadsheet that we're going to use tomorrow. Your assignment is going to be to create a form for the rest of the period, 10 good questions about a single topic, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.